Hello and welcome to Commodity Champions, your weekly dose of what's really happening in the space. I'm Manisha Gupta. The year after the pandemic saw supply chains return along with investments in logistics and a higher focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This recovery, however, has given rise to another concern: storage. Increased production and investment has facilitated a supply boom, but it also has resulted in a surge in demand for warehousing space. According to Savills India, the country's current requirement is 70,000 integrated pack houses, while the current capacity stands at just about 250. The clear storage crunch has even forced some e-commerce companies to use halls, stalls and free spaces for storage. Cold storage chains are also an area of concern following a production boom of food grains, dairy and poultry. The added pharmaceutical requirement of the nationwide vaccination distribution program has further compounded the issue. The warehousing sector has turned to robotics and automation in this time of crisis, but are there other solutions, and is this enough? And what are the other issues that the sector is facing? To discuss that and more, we are now joined by, taking the discussion forward, it's Sandeep Sabharwal. He's Group CEO at Sohanlal Commodity Management Private Limited. Also on the show with us is Anand Chandra. He's ED at Arya Collateral Warehousing Services. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining on the show. And Anand, this is to you first. We do understand that there is a crunch, and we have seen various startups come in the space. There is investment that we've seen come here as well. And most of the companies listed and not listed who had space or land also are looking at the potential of warehousing and logistics right now. What would you say has been the kind of growth that we've seen on a year-on-year basis?
I think the growth has been very gradual in the agri sector, especially for the agri warehousing space, considering the fact that the charges which people get are not remunerated for an investment. But warehousing per se for the capital, the FMCG or the e-tailers have been very good because people are looking at setting up hub and spoke and widening their distribution network. So there's a huge demand we see on the warehousing front for the FMCG and the capital goods. But on the agri warehousing side, though the demand is there, but the growth has not been so significant. And considering that we, as per the latest FAO report, we need 1 billion metric tons of more food grains to be produced. So creation of infrastructure for agri warehouses becomes imperative. So, we are looking at shortages of warehouses for agri warehouses, and some of the warehouses, if they move to the FMCG and the capital goods, there will be more dearth of warehouses which will be available at our disposal.
Well, absolutely. Sandeep, when we look at the per capita warehousing space in India, that is perhaps the lowest in the world, because I'm looking at India at 2.4 square feet. If I look at Japan, it's 43 square feet. US is 37 square feet. So clearly that tells you on how low we are when it comes to warehousing, and per capita numbers is even lower. What are the global learnings into this one?
So, Manisha, I think before I come into the global learnings, I'd like to go on the using perspective. See, we all, again and again, we are talking about infrastructure creation, everything the problem is somewhere else. Let me illustrate this example to you. You just said that there are about 70,000 packs warehouses available in India. Now, if I were to go to the WDR, which is the Warehousing Work and Regulation Act, the epitome of the Act of Warehousing in India, till date, from 2011 till date, only 3,233 warehouses have been accredited by the WDRA Act. And as of today morning, out of that 3,433 warehouses, only 1,956 warehouses are active. Now, this is a stark comparison. This is not, the debate is wrong. The debate is not about infrastructure creation, it is about utilization. I think where Anand also came back and said that, it's not remunerative. I again would have to say that we are looking at the wrong solution. The problem here is when you compare ourselves to Japan or America, there is a different evolved supply chain mechanism there, which India does not have. The fragmented farms that India has, the fragmented supply chain solution that we have, is not going to give us the solution of what you and I have always been debating. I think warehousing has to be looked upon from a perspective of software services. This has to become an Airbnb or an Oyo sort of a model for it to survive and for it to thrive. It has nothing to do with warehouse creation. And I said, my numbers tell you this. The WDRA numbers themselves are stark in comparison. That out of the 70,000 packs warehouses, only 3,433 warehouses in the last 9 years have got accredited. And out of that 3,433, only 1,956 are active.
Well, I know what you're saying, Sandeep. That's a very, very small number. I believe in a percentage form, it would be perhaps 3 to 5% of the total warehouses and the warehouses that are actually registered with the regulator, which is the WDRA. So yes, there are concerns. And as you said, there are just too many challenges when you look at this space here. Anand, this one is to you. So while you talked about agriculture, whether it's about food grains, where we are looking at a fifth straight year of record production, horticulture is looking at a second straight year of record production as well. And yes, then there is this thing about poultry, dairy, pharmaceuticals. The demand or the requirement is unending. How far would you say are we from fulfilling this gap?
So in terms of creation of infrastructure, it's been, I've been in the industry for almost 18 years now, and since the time I joined the industry, we were talking about creation of infrastructure. We have always been studying that there is a shortage of infrastructure, there is a shortage of infrastructure, and there is a shortage of infrastructure. I think somewhere in the entire scheme of things, the creation of infrastructure is not happening at the pace at which we would like it to happen, so that the gap is fulfilled. The growth has been absolutely slow. There have been schemes which have been launched by government, especially the Gramin Bhandaran Yojana, which helped us a bit, in terms of creation of infrastructure. Then there, this agri infrastructure fund, if probably, is another effort being made. But end of the day, the idea for all these schemes is to create those small fragmented, individuals coming up and setting up warehouses. Now, the second challenge which comes is when these individual comes up and set up those warehouses, the funding requirement or the management of the warehouse becomes difficult to do. See, like what Sandeep said, that there are almost very few warehouses which are registered to WDRA. Now, the reason is that it is so fragmented industry now that you will not see any corporate owning 100 warehouses across the country. There will not be a single corporate who would do that. So there has to be a lot of, aggregation of warehousing space which has to happen, and the creation of infrastructure has to, we have to increase the speed of it. Otherwise, we will fall short of, the requirements, because as you mentioned, the supply is going up, the production figures are going up. So we will again see people throwing those tomatoes, onions, potatoes on the road again. And especially the cold storage infrastructure is minuscule. It's very limited still now.
Yes, that's on the pretty side.
Probably, one of the technology, Manisha, I could say is, something which we use in US is, using those flexible hermetic storage is something which is being tested. If it becomes successful, could be an answer to the shortage of, warehouse space in India.
And then it brings us to another discussion as well. And Sandeep, this one is to you. While you said you can't treat warehouses like a B&B, I mean, you can't have one room or, people using free spaces as a warehouse. But tell me, when you talk about the type of ownership, there are private, bonded, public warehouses as well. And as I was reading the last time, 45% of warehouses still belong to public companies. Is that number out to change now with the kind of potential that this space throws?
No, so let me clarify my last monologue here. Manisha, what I meant was that the Airbnb model is the way forward. I don't think owning of the infrastructure is going to solve any issues there. The very fact that the ROE on an infrastructure-driven model is so low that any corporate house is not willing to invest top dollars into the warehousing industry in owning the infrastructure. Now that brings back to the problem that what is happening with the warehousing infrastructure which is already present there. Is anybody going to come and consolidate it and then make the supply chain schematics out of this? The answer to that, with my limited knowledge of past 20 years in this industry, is no. Why? Because we've seen this from the supply chain perspective, that unless all supply chain models, that means procurement to transportation to warehousing to financing and then finally disposal of crops, all get together into one supply chain mechanism which ends up giving one revenue stream to one group of company, then only does it make sense on an ROE table. Otherwise it doesn't. Now, if you are to treat warehousing as a fragmented model the way we have been doing so in India, that warehousing standalone is going to make money and so on and so forth, that is not going to happen, and that is very evident now. We don't have to reinvent the wheel over and over again. The fact of the matter is that you see the infrastructure which is there, we'll have to follow a REITs model. A model where the infrastructure is created by some other funds, it is created by long-term investors which have a long-term appetite, whereas the management of that infrastructure is done by supply chain companies like us, like Arya Collateral, so on and so forth, and which actually amalgamate the defragmented supply chain that we are presently sitting on. So the
Okay.
question here is as follows. When you go to a bank, the bank is also a kind of a warehouse where it is providing warehousing for your valuable items under the locker schemes. Now, they don't charge you an obnoxious amount to avail a locker scheme, do they? The bank is actually earning its ROE on the various products, and one product is the warehousing of your valuables under the locker scheme. The same schematics which have to work in agri warehousing as well. The warehousing, the warehouse receipt financing, the procurement model, the other services around the warehousing are all revenue streams that have to be amalgamated into the supply chain for it to work. So I am very clear after my 20 years of stint in this, after growing this company from one warehouse to we are managing 5,700 warehouses today, it is impossible for me to come back and say that warehousing standalone will make money.
Point
No,
taken.
it isn't.
You know,
And that brings us to a bigger picture that if warehousing standalone is not going to make money, will large dollars come in into creation of warehouses? The answer is again no. So
I
we don't have
I want to,
reinvent this.
Sandeep, I have to take a very short break right now, but I do want to understand on what will really work then, because, you know, various numbers do show that in 2019, $14 billion of a warehousing industry is where India was standing at. And the expectation is that we are going closer to $20 billion by 2025. So when you said that this is not working, what would really work is something that I want to ask both of you, but after this very short break. Welcome back, and we're looking at the warehouse sector in India, which has seen a lot of buzz in the last 12 months, especially given the COVID situation. But has the industry been able to live up to the kind of investment and the potential that it promises? Anand, I want to come to you, and even as there are concerns here, but the government has been working in this sector also. It's almost budget after budget that we see reforms and we see investments and subsidies that the government speaks about. How helpful have that been?
See, the subsidies which initially the government gave under the Gramin Bhandaran Yojana was quite good, and it had helped in creation of infrastructure. But the other challenge which we as a country face is, the central versus state policy. So it was a policy which was announced by the central, and very few states were, proactively involved, and they put in those infrastructures, or I would say the processes in place to facilitate creation of infrastructure. Like MP was one state, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, 3-4 states were stand out in terms of creation of infrastructure, where people have utilized that subsidy scheme to create infrastructure. Other states like Bihar, UP were left behind. So that because the central state issues came in, and the government has been proactively doing, but the challenge still remains the center versus state. You have seen this happening on the 3 farm bills. Also, the center has put in, and we have apprehensions and challenges at the state level. Nonetheless, but the focus of the government has been on, driving infrastructure in the, realizing that infrastructure is going to be the key for the entire value chain. And with this agri infrastructure fund, we hope that, things will evolve. And then, the other reforms which the government is trying to push through these 3 farm bills is, as Sandeep mentioned, that standalone basis things are not remunerative for people to come and invest in. So it has to be an end-to-end thing, which, we along with Sohan Lal are trying to do is, we have our warehousing, we have our own NBFC, and probably as things evolve, our warehouses will become a digital marketplace. So end-to-end, when you look at the, all those touch points being handled by one organization or a group of organization, that's when things will become remunerative, and that's probably will facilitate us to also go into creation of infrastructure.
All right. So while, of course, the government has done a lot, but it's a state and a central government subject, and clearly those geographies are in play there. Sandeep, what would you want to see happen now to ensure that this sector reaches its potential? Because the demand is vast, and not just from agriculture, but various other sectors. Warehousing was a big business, I believe, some 7-8 years ago as well, and it really seems to be coming back in a big way, whether it's FMCG, e-retailers, e-commerce, agriculture, food grains, you name it, and they need space. So what is the next step from here?
So I think, Manisha ji, the next steps when I talk about, I'll actually talk only about agriculture warehousing, and I will not touch base on e-commerce warehousing or other warehousing of white goods. The very fact is that, as Anand said, that there are the state and central laws, but before that, I would say that the ironing out of the laws which are presently there. There has been a long-standing demand from companies like us, which are in agri warehousing, saying that the GST services on agri warehousing are, and the input tax and the output tax don't match. So there has to be streamlining done on the GST Act itself for accommodating agri warehousing as a service. One. Two is, I am also saying is that there needs to be a spirit of deregulation. We are overtly regulated. The warehousing industry in agri specifically and the allied services are overtly regulated. Two is that there is no special status in understanding how agriculture warehousing actually works. See, in an agriculture warehousing, the agriculture warehousing doesn't work on a standalone basis that somebody comes and puts their grains in a warehouse just for storage. They do this not only for storage, but for also availing agriculture credit behind it. Now, agriculture credit is being provided by service providers like banks and also now new NBFCs. But when NBFCs are defaulted upon, they do not have any special or fast track courts where they can go and plead their cases. They are treated as a normal commercial case which goes on for years and years, and the agriculture NBFC can't actually make their ends meet. So what I'm trying to say is there has to be a spirit of new regulations and rules which actually govern the sector. They understand the crisis of the sector. One. Two, streamlining of already present laws. There are laws which actually, so for example, if you look at SARFAESI, now it is applicable on LAPs and on home loans and so on and so forth. Why isn't such an act or similar act available for agriculture warehousing industry as well? Wherein if there's a default, a person in an agriculture warehousing can go ahead and sell the goods without any recourse to multiple courts and multiple jurisdictions. So I think there has to be a lot to be done on the ground, one, but pertinent to agri warehousing. You can't just demarcate and say warehousing as such can be adjusted and agri warehousing is only a part of that. Because there are different needs and different distinct requirements for agri warehousing.
So it's not just about reforms, it's also about state and centre, and then it's also about the judiciary as well. So a lot of things need to be really working here. Anand, so as Sandeep mentioned, we do need more space, whether it's about free trade, warehouse zones, emergence of third-party logistics, super grid logistics is something we keep talking about, and this whole growing preference of co-warehouses. How do you look at that as well?
Well, obviously the requirement is there. Again, what you mentioned, the return on equity is the key area for people to come in and put money in. Just to add to what Sandeep was mentioning, the bigger other challenges which we always face is, agriculture being a very touchy subject for our country, and when most of the sector, to me, prima facie suffers because we mix welfare with business. All this MSP issues and all is basically a welfare. We understand that farming is not remunerative; there has to be a subsidy, but the challenges come when a government interferes in the prices, because warehousing is a factor of the prices prevailing in the market. So for warehousing to go, government has to move out of the welfare, has to segregate welfare from business. You cannot continue doing welfare at the cost of business, or you cannot do business at the cost of welfare. So it has to be, welfare has to be separated. Farmers have to be subsidized, but not at the cost of buying and getting into buying and selling activity. The government should refrain from getting into buying and selling. Leave the business to it, or once you leave the business aside, industry will develop on its own. So you create that ambience in which industry people will survive, because the moment you separate the welfare and the business, it becomes easier for government also to implement some of the schemes they are looking at. The challenge they face is they are mixing welfare with business. It becomes difficult for them to also take calls, what is beneficial for industry or what is a welfare part.
All right, that's a very valid point. I have a last couple of minutes or so. So, Sandeep, what is your sense on what kind of growth can the warehousing industry see? And if there was there was a further ask from this sector, because the growth potential is something that we all understand on, but the investment and reaching there, whether it's about technology or state of art or 3D, as the global learnings have been on, what is your sense on what kind of growth are we looking at? What is the opportunity?
So, Manisha ji, one thing is that you see, I'm seeing sustained growth, and I'm especially speaking about our group. In the last 4 months, we've seen about 150 to 175% growth in our asset under management already. So we are seeing robust growth during this era, specifically from the fact that firms or companies or groups which have been able to demonstrate their digital connect, their understanding of the entire supply chain are being rewarded as we speak. So there is a lot of demand. There is a lot of unspent demand which is there on the ground, which is up for grabs. That's one important point. The other important point is top dollars are chasing inclusive models. And when I say inclusive models, I again come back to models which have a capability of demonstrating scalability, sustainability, and higher ROEs. There is also a maturity at the level of investors. So I have 7 investors on board with me. So we are seeing a level of maturity on investors when they understand the agri sector now. They have a different set of horizon and different set of vision as the companies go forward. So I think the stage is all set. What we would want is that as an enabling environment, an environment wherein the demands of the industry or the legitimate demands of the industry are not only heard but are acted upon swiftly. There has to be adaptability. There has to be turnaround times that have been defined in the government corridors. So I do not want to be standing in the queue for getting resolution to an agri dispute for 6 years. That doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Why? Because as it is, if you look at this agriculture subset or the subsector actually evolves once in every 2 years. There's Rabi and Kharif. So the crops get expired in the next year or so on. And yet for jurisdiction and for applicability of laws and for, for your claims to get settled, it happens 5 years, 6 years. It doesn't work. The maths doesn't add up. So our only request would be, or my only request would be, is that the legislation and the jurisdiction which is already available, there needs to be some, some steering committees for at each level who will come and understand the issues of the warehousing and the agricultural industry and take proper and immediate steps for addressing same, rather than just postponing them and looking at it from only a policy level point of view.
Point well taken, Sandeep. Thank you so much. Anand, you as well. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. So clearly, 3-digit percentage growth in warehousing sector. Opportunities are huge, but not without challenges there. But thank you so much for joining us today and putting a spotlight on the warehousing sector in India. The opportunities are huge, but not without its challenges. So that's the spotlight on the warehousing sector in India. With that, that's all the time that we have on Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.